Hey there, so this is Kiko Frappe, and I'm going to be going back and doing a little more colouring on this, so I'm going to be doing some shading here. What I'm going to tell you now is that I'm actually having to voice over the original video because, well, there was an awful lot of background noise at the time and it completely distorted all the sound that was originally there. So you weren't able to hear me at all before. And hopefully this time around you can. So what I have just done there is that I have put on my earrings, which include my stretched 8mm piercings in the lobes, because I'd completely forgotten about that. Could you believe? Sometimes you just have so many piercings you forget. So what I'm doing here is that I'm adding the shading to my body for the brown bits. Or perhaps I'm starting off by adding the little tabby stripes. So let's see what past me did at this point. So it looks like I've put that onto the multiply layer with a little bit of opacity. So yeah, that is a warm grey. So I'm doing the shading first, it seems. What I'm going to be doing at the same time as voicing over is that I'm also going to be doing a little bit of drawing of my own, as there are other things I would like to do at the same time. Now, as you can see there is already a small amount of difference simply by adding on some shading onto the little cat version of me. And I would actually be doing more adjustments on that later to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect. So, the clothing that I am wearing in that particular image, these are things that I own in real life. So the shirt I'm wearing is actually a Killstar crop top. And I did actually mod the sleeves as they were originally too long for my liking. So as soon as I got them, I went ahead, cut the sleeves, and prayed to every deity out there that I did it right. And given that I wear the shirt anytime it's appropriate for me to do so, I guess it goes to show that my prayers were successful. There we go. So now, changing the opacity a little, and doesn't that look so much better? So I will be working on my next piece of work for this, the next layer to work on. So it's going to be another multiply from the looks of things, much less opacity. So I am working on my white points here, because I can't really do the shading for only the brown parts of my body without also doing the white. Now let's see, what am I going to be doing next? it looks like I'm now working on the tabby stripes. After all, what is a tabby cat without their tabby stripes? So for here, I have been using different brush sizes and opacity that is based on pressure. And this is how, by doing it across different layers and different opacity levels, you are able to achieve some quite nice, simple texture without having to exert that much effort. Now, if you were to look back at the start of that video, that is a completely different kind of look from how it was at the beginning, isn't it? That looks totally different. It's quite lovely, isn't it? But we're not quite done. We still have some ways to go. I'm sure if you are still watching and not just dozing off or having this in the background, as you look on other things, you can see that we're only about 8 minutes in currently, and there is almost an entire half hour of this entire video. We are nowhere near halfway done. There's more. So now there is more shading to be done. So I will be working on the inside of the ears next. And let's just get a little shade in there. Of course, with that lovely warm grey on Multiply. That I can tell you as someone who has spent 4 years studying illustration can confirm that is the best way to achieve shading. You never ever want to straight up use black in a colourful drawing like this if you want it to remain looking soft and alive. Black is quite a dead colour and can remove all the life that was in a drawing before. Which is why there are certain types of illustration that can get away with using black for shading. So, I'm finishing up the eyes here, getting them absolutely spot on and completing the shading on them as eyes are not flat. Even in computer game graphics, there is always a little something going on there. It's very challenging, to say the least, to try talking and observing what I'd done previously, whilst at the same time drawing something completely new. So this other drawing that I am working on at the same time, that is something that may become the subject of a new video. But for now, there is this, which I am voicing over. Now this next bit is my hair, and I just have to get it looking a little more rounded, like it's actually on something, like my head. Let's get that, yes, that is some good opacity. Could that be any better though? Maybe? Possibly? No, it looks like it's just fine. Let's see. So, it looks like it's time to fix that t-shirt. For I realised, as I was actually wearing that t-shirt at the time that I did this original video, that I'd actually gotten the design, well, it wasn't 100% spot on, is what I'm trying to say. So I will be working on fixing that momentarily. But first, I want to do shading here. So I know that is one less job to come back to. So let's see now that because of the way that I had painted this originally, this was going to take a little while for me to fix. There we go. We are starting to make a little progress as to understanding what I'd actually done the first time round, and it starts coming together. There we go. We have now gotten rid of the original. Did we get rid of the original mistake? There we go. So we have started to make some progress here. And there we go, adding in details of the original shirt. So it has, oops, wrong layer, there. So there is an Egyptian symbol on the shirt itself. I dare not say it right now because I will mispronounce it quite horrifically. let's just get rid of the original cat head. To get rid of what was an original mistake. There is no shame in that. And here we start to fix what I'd done wrong originally. And now we have something that is starting to look closer to the original shirt. Careful to ensure it never gets too dark. You should still be able to see the design, but it should look right in place with the Animal Crossing style. So far, that is looking much better than it did originally, but there is still something missing. Of course, the jeans are still completely flat. So, we're going to be adding some shading onto this. So there we go, a nice small brush. The dark grey, multiply layer, and we will add the opacity levels later once we have gotten this shading done. There we go. Now let's see how that looks. I'm not too sure about that. Maybe it could be fainter? No. Maybe I should do something else. Let's get rid of that there. That doesn't seem quite right. Now I can barely... Now I can see it. Now it looks right. Just a little more. A little more. Oh, too much. There we go. And that is looking a lot better. There we go. Now let's see. Something is still not quite right. Of course, the coffee. I must get to work on finishing the coffee cup. That needs shading as well. It is all small little changes, but they are changes that really help to make the difference that we need. All noticeable differences are very small changes. And that is the thing that I quite like about art, is that everything even when you think that it couldn't possibly be worth anything, you will find it is worth so much more than what you'd originally thought. So we now have the steam on the cup, because it's a hot cup of coffee. So the steam is important. That tells us a little bit more about this little kitty cat. So there are other things I'm working on here. There we go. So I've darkened the lines on my face. So the glasses, my nose, my whiskers. As now with the shading, they seem far too light. And let's try to group them together in some way now that I've finished my body. None of these are quite right. What if I need to go back and edit something later? How do you solve a problem like this? Oh, maybe, yes, perfect. Now I know which layers are indicative of my body. So let's decide what is the next thing I'm going to do from here. I still can't quite do what I would like, but let's move on to something else. It looks a little weird to be standing against a pure white background. So let's start making my bedroom. This is going to be my bedroom in real life. So let's work out the colours that I use in my bedroom. Now, just looking at these colours. So, I currently have an off-white for my walls. So let's start with that as the background. So you may find that we can now see where there are missing pixels on me. I will go on to the next video to fix that. But before that happens, let's get a little further on his background. What kind of a bedroom could it be if you only have a wall? There should be other things in a bedroom, let alone a wall. So let's have a little think. Ah, yes. So we are going to be putting in a carpet. So I have a beige carpet. That's quite a good colour match with the carpet that I have. And now let's get a box out and get that floor coloured in. We want a rectangle and not a circle. There we go. And boom, there we go. We now have a wall and a floor. So this is now most definitely a room, but a bedroom, well, there is one more thing you need to truly make it a bedroom. And of course, it should be a bed. But before I even do that, there is something I'm currently resting my feet on. A very lush, very fluffy purple rug. So I just need to get this right. Overshot a little. See, is that right? Almost. There. Perfect. Now let's just get the perfect colour, try to match it to my rug. They told me before it was something called spiceberry. Now, it's not the most perfect colour for a rug, but I will be going over that later and texturing it. And now the next thing. Remember when I said about my bed? We're going to be putting that in now. So let's start with getting the bed frame in. So that there is the headboard of my bed. Now I just need to get more of the actual bed in. Let's see. Ah, yes. That bed is so far quite well proportioned, but there is still, ah yes, a headboard for the bottom. The footboard. Right. This is still not completely perfect, but that's okay. So there we go. I now just need to try getting that spot on so I can add in the last bit that is needed. And there we go. So let's remove these guidelines as I don't need them anymore. Now, I would obviously need to do some shading here. I would need to fill in the gaps, and this isn't the only piece of furniture that would be visible here at this point. So it's as far from completed, but we are getting a lot closer to that. So just little steps can take you very far. There was very little I did to create a background in the first place, as you just saw. All I did was select areas and then use the paint bucket to fill in those areas. And we already have a background where we can clearly see what is happening here. So we can still see how there are areas where I'll need to go back in and fill in the gaps. As you can now see the wall through me, which is not quite right. So there's gaps in my ear and my face that need fixing. Even my belly needs fixing, but that's okay. We still have a little ways to go, but that will be saved for another time. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and next time, the area I'm circling, I will get that filled in with the rest of the furniture. So right there, I will finish the texture and the shading. Until next time, bye-bye.